You've probably heard of omega-3s and heard that they're good for you. Maybe don't know a lot about them. We're going to talk just a little bit about why the omega-3s are important and a balance between them and another fat. Omega-3s are a group of fatty acids that are found in fish, in flax seeds, flax oil, in walnuts, chia seeds, and they're in some vegetables like lettuce and things like that. Omega-3s in your body have an anti-inflammatory effect. They actually sit in your cell membranes, the little coating around the outside of your cells, and they serve a role when your body needs things made in that cell membrane. If there's omega-3s there, they produce a bunch of good chemicals that have an anti-inflammatory effect in your system. The omega-3s, when they sit in that cell membrane, they actually make the membrane fluid so that things can get in and out of the cell, which is really, really important. The membrane needs to be normally have good fluidity so the stuff can get in and out of the cell. Now there's another fatty acid that's called omega-6. And omega-6 fats are found primarily in vegetable oils, in nuts and seeds, and basically those types of things. The biggest source would be corn oil and soybean oil in most people's diets. You need omega-6s. You have to have them in your diet. And there's a ratio that people 100 years ago probably had, which is like 5 omega-6s to 1 omega-3, so a ratio of 5 to 1. And that's about the ratio that your system needs for good health and everything. Unfortunately, today, with all the processed food we eat and fried foods and chips and snacks and salad dressings and all the stuff that has the oils like soybean and corn oil on, when we eat those types of foods, most people's ratio is, instead of being 5 to 1, is actually closer to 25 to 1, which really creates a problem because omega-6s are what are called pro-inflammatory. They also are in your cell membranes, and when they're called upon to do their thing, they produce chemicals that produce inflammation. Now, inflammation itself is not bad. You need some inflammation, and you also need some anti-inflammation to make your system be balanced. When you have a lot more of the things that are going to produce more inflammation, that's where you start to get into problems. And excessive inflammation causes, joint problems in your arteries, problems in your brain. There's a lot of things that are linked to excessive inflammation, and a lot of that can be tied back to the imbalance between those two fats. Going back to the fluidity of that cell membrane, you want that membrane to have that fluidity so that things can get in and out of the cells properly, nutrients, waste products out, nutrients in, so that nerve messages and nerve impulses can actually travel across the cell. Is particularly important for brain function because your brain cells are cells and they have membranes. And if you have good omega-3 content in those cell membranes, the messages get moved around properly. If you don't have enough omega-3s, the messages don't get moved around properly, and it's sort of like a short circuit in your wiring. So that's something that's not good. You don't want to have that. That's the reason why things like hydrogenated oils or trans fats you've heard of are so destructive, because they're artificially saturated. We'll talk about that in another segment too. But they're artificially saturated, which means they will do different things in your body that you don't want, and they're the wrong shape, so they get into your cell membrane and they actually gum up the works. They reduce the fluidity of the cell membrane and make it so stuff can't get in and stuff can't get out, and that's a big problem. So how do you get more omega-3s in your diet and less omega-6s? The biggest way is to try and eat less processed food, because processed food is where you get all those high amounts of omega-6s. Corn oil, soybean oil, we eat way too much of that type of food. In addition to that, they feed most conventional cows for meat and dairy products. They feed them corn and soybeans, which those fatty acids are in the animal, and you eat the meat or you drink the milk, and now you're getting omega-6s from that source too. So all that stuff drives inflammation. So trying to reduce those sources of omega-6, less of those things, and trying to eat more cold water fish like salmon is the best source. If you don't do that, really think about taking a fish oil supplement. We've got our favorites here at the store. There's some good ones and better ones. If you don't have a lot of omega-6s in your diet and you're not eating much processed food at all, you may not really need much of an omega-3 supplement. But most people do eat fair amount of processed oils. And to get that back into balance, at least do a fish oil supplement and really try to think about reducing those other fats and oils in your diet, those omega 6s, so you can dampen down the inflammation and get that balance back. Thank you very much.